In the 1800s, the increase in mass production led to conflict among workers and labor unions, equality between workers and the wealthy, a decrease in the need for skilled workers, a decrease in the use of child labor. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, most immigrants who came to the United States lived in comfortable conditions in the cities, started businesses with their own resources, bought land in rural areas and became farmers, established their own neighborhoods in the cities. During the 1800s, the federal government proposed a policy of assimilation, which encouraged American Indians to adopt white culture, relocated American Indians from the east to the west, created the reservation system in the Western Territory, assisted officials and tribal leaders in treaty negotiations. During the Gilded Age, how did the U.S. Congress respond to the rise of monopolies? Congress encouraged the growth of business with laissez-faire policies. Congress passed a law that provided a minimum wage for workers. Congress worked to ensure workers' safety in offices and factories. Congress worked to prevent laissez-faire policies to help businesses grow. During the Second Industrial Revolution, the government was considered laissez-faire because it worked to regulate workers fairly, it worked to regulate business fairly, it did not allow monopolies to develop, it did not interfere with business affairs. Which statement best describes one of the new business models that emerged during the Second Industrial Revolution? Small businesses cooperated to compete with big business. Big businesses bought competitors to become monopolies. Big businesses decided to become smaller to gain efficiency. Small businesses negotiated with unions to cut labor costs. During the Gilded Age, unskilled laborers who worked in factories received low wages, had safe conditions, received good training, received medical care. One major effect of industrialization in the United States was that more people became educated, moved to urban areas, took up family farming, received medical care. The belief that immigrants are inferior to the citizens born in a country is called laissez-faire, nativism, segregation, urbanization. How did the Industrial Revolution change society during the Gilded Age? The lower class became much smaller, the middle class became much smaller, the gap between the rich and the poor closed, the gap between the rich and the poor increased. In the Gilded Age, how did monopolies affect smaller businesses? Monopolies helped small businesses grow. Monopolies forced businesses to shut down. Monopolies had no effect on small businesses. Monopolies provided customers for small businesses. Businesses that flourished during the Second Industrial Revolution were advanced by the construction of hundreds of new roads, the passage of government regulations, the creation of new forms of technology, the reliance on old business models. During the Second Industrial Revolution, many Americans embraced manifest destiny, which was the belief that the U.S. was supposed to expand west, the U.S. should embrace industrialization, monopolies benefited the U.S. economy, New forms of technology were profitable. Read the quotation from the populist Omaha platform. The fruits of the toil of millions are boldly stolen to build up colossal fortunes for a few, unprecedented in the history of mankind. And the possessors of those, in turn, despise the republic and endanger liberty. From the same prolific womb of governmental injustice, we breed the two great classes, tramps and millionaires. What sentence best summarizes the above quotation? The common people often take advantage of the wealthy class. The wealthy often profit from the hard work of the lower class. The wealthy succeed because they are stronger than the lower class. There are three economic classes: the rich, the poor, and the middle class. Any political movement that represents the interest of the common people is known as capitalism, populism, bimetallism, activism. Which of the following was a factor that contributed to the formation of the People's Party in 1891? Farmers wanted to own their own banks and railroads. Farmers wanted well-paying jobs with large businesses. Farmers wanted higher commodity prices and shipping costs. Farmers wanted a political party that represented their interest. What did the People's Party believe would result from the government taking control of America's railroads and banks? Government control would prevent those industries from taking advantage of small farmers. Government control would force those industries to offer more jobs to the common people. Government control would prompt banks and railroads to rely on gold coins instead of silver. Government control would end the inflation and rising costs caused by a shortage of currency. Read the quotation from William Jennings Bryan's Cross of Gold speech. You shall not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold. Which of the following best describes Bryan's opinion about currency? Working people do not make as much gold as the wealthy. Free silver would ruin the economy of the United States. The gold standard hurts every worker in the United States. Workers would prefer to earn gold coins instead of silver. Read the quote for whom was Bryan giving this speech. We say not one word against those who live on the Atlantic coast, but the hardy pioneers who have braved all of the dangers of the wilderness, who have made the desert blossom at the rose.
To the cafeteria at this time. Any seniors that can come to the honor roll breakfast, please report to the cafeteria at this time. Thank you.
I'll read it one more time. We say not one word against those who live on the Atlantic coast, but the hardy pioneers who have braved all of the dangers of the wilderness, who have made the desert blossom as the rose. It is for those that we speak. For whom was Bryan giving this speech? Desert nomads, New Yorkers, Western settlers, Southerners. The social gospel movement worked to better conditions in cities according to biblical ideals of charity and justice, the economic doctrine of laissez-faire, practical realities of urban poverty, the principles of social science. Based on your knowledge in the events outlined in the table, you can conclude that in the late 1800s, Americans were not interested in sports. People had more leisure time available to them. Professional sports declined in popularity. Skiing became the most popular sport in the United States. Based on the graph above, describe how immigration to the United States changed between 1870 and 1900. You'll write your answer on your paper under the graph. You must write a minimum of 4 sentences.